For more on the war in Ukraine and the American response, we bring in Representative Joaquin Castro of Texas, a member of the House Foreign Affairs and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Great to be with you.
So you've been a longtime supporter of targeted sanctions against Russia. Even before this war, and in 2018, you introduced sanctions legislation after 3 people were poisoned on British soil. Right now, at this moment, how well do you think that the sanctions are working with Russia showing no signs of retreat?
I think the Biden administration has marshaled our allies around the world and demonstrated American leadership. I think the financial sanctions are going to hit Russia hard. You're right that it's going to take a little bit of time for those to really kick in and for Vladimir Putin and his oligarchs to feel the pain. But they will end up being very devastating to the Russian economy. And they've got to make Vladimir Putin and his people think twice.
And you said, and we've been hearing that, the idea that these sanctions would take time. But do we have time here when we're talking about the Ukrainians? You know, if it's still weeks, will Ukraine be able to stand up to them that long?
Well, Ukraine has demonstrated incredible fighting spirit that I think has surprised not only the Russians, but surprised the world. And the United States and Europe and other nations are helping to supply military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. So I think they do have a lot of fight in them. And look, President Biden was clear that the United States is not going to go commit ground troops to fight against Russia. This country was in a war, the war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. And so that's not something that we're going to do. But we're trying to be helpful in every other possible way that we can.
And do you think that the U.S. is doing enough to help Ukrainians to stop this war? And if not, what other additional actions could we be doing above and beyond?
Well, so far, we've helped with hundreds of millions of dollars in military equipment. We've helped impose, along with the world, severe financial sanctions against Russia. We marshaled our allies around the world and some folks that really, nations that aren't especially close to the United States, to come out in the UN with a strong 141-5 vote condemning Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. The House of Representatives just today passed a resolution in a bipartisan way condemning Russia and asking or demanding a ceasefire. And we're looking at other things. Myself and Representative Ann Wagner, a Republican from Missouri, are looking for the administration to do everything it can to help impose what I would call cultural and social sanctions against Russia. That means making sure that sporting events are not held in Russia, whether it's in golf or tennis or martial arts or Formula One racing, any of those things. And so there's still things left that we can do to put pressure on Vladimir Putin and the oligarchs, and we're intent on doing them.
And a U.S. defense official today said that they believe that Russian troops are running low on food and fuel. Realistically, excuse me, and I asked you the other way as far as how long would the Ukrainians be able to sustain this, but how long do you think that the Russian troops are going to be able to stay there on the ground?
Well, it's become clear that the Russians expected to march into Kiev and take over the country fairly easily, and that just hasn't happened. The fighting's gone on for over a week. The Ukrainians have shown no sign of giving up or surrendering. And so, yeah, it does not surprise me that Russians are running out of food. They're probably running out of water. They're running out of different supplies. They're suffering heavy losses, heavier than they expected. And Vladimir Putin at this point has also committed war crimes, targeting civilian populations. And I think the world is shocked by that. It shocks the conscience. And so it's going to be very difficult for Vladimir Putin to continue to justify this war, most of all to his people. I think the Russian people are going to rise up against him as a leader.
How concerned are you about Russia's nuclear threats? And do you agree with the Pentagon's decision to postpone an ICBM missile test previously scheduled for this weekend?
I mean, look, anytime you're talking about a nation that's a nuclear-powered nation, you've got to take it seriously. And so I think that the Defense Department, this administration, they're right to take it seriously and make sure that we tread carefully. Look, the last thing that any of us wants to do is to do something that instigates nuclear war. We spent generations trying to avoid that, spent a lot of years on nuclear non-proliferation around the world. So, of course, we have to take it seriously. And I trust their expertise over at the Department of Defense in making that decision.
And last question for you, Congressman, because you did mention that you felt that the Russians would ultimately rise up potentially against Putin. What would that look like? What would they have to do you think, in order for him to stop?
I think you started to see it at the beginning of this. You saw thousands and thousands of Russians in Moscow and other parts of the country coming out in the street. And the response by Vladimir Putin was to arrest people simply for protesting with signs that said no war, just for protesting, just for exercising the right of free speech. He had probably thousands of people at this point, or several hundred people arrested. But the longer this goes on, the more that parents see their sons, some of them 18, 19 years old, who apparently were told that they were going on training exercises and not even told the truth about their mission. I don't think the Russian people are going to stand for that. I don't think they're going to stand for a leader who lies to them and gets their sons and daughters potentially killed.
Representative Castro, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.